Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFC, at least one of the top two teams in the NFC, and they should roll against Tampa Bay, led by Baker Mayfield in tonight's game on Monday Night Football. At least that's probably the way that most people are thinking. And I'm going to be building lineups today focused on a Tampa Bay victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. My name's Simon Edwards at Pumacom with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. And this is a show where we try to build showdown lineups on DraftKings with the idea of competing against 20% of the field as opposed to 80% of the field. And today we're going to be doing that by focusing on Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers side. And give us a like on the video, subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you happen to be watching. We appreciate that. Always helps with engagement, getting those likes up and helping us to get more viewers on this content, helps us to produce more. We're going to be doing another Gamescript episode with the Los Angeles Rams versus the Cincinnati Bengals. That'll be coming up a little bit later today, but now we're going to focus our attention on the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The part of the reason why I like the Tampa Bay side in tonight's game is the Eagles have just not looked right this season. I was saying in the beginning of the season, before the season started, that I felt like the Eagles would not win their division this year. I felt like losing their offensive and defensive coordinators was a big blow. With Nick Siriani as the head coach, I'm not a believer in Nick Siriani as being a good coach, and they brought in a inexperienced offensive coordinator. The guy had been the quarterback's coach before getting promoted to offensive coordinator for the Eagles. And prior to that, he hadn't really called any plays at the NFL level. He'd called plays at the college level. And we're kind of seeing that inexperience come through with the way that he's been calling games the first couple weeks in the season. There's been a lot of stalling of the Eagles offense. They haven't performed like we would expect them to. And there's been a lot of complaining by the fans, and there's been a lot of arguments with the players as well. Last week, we saw Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown going at it on the sidelines. And Nick Sirianni tried to step into that argument to settle things down. And A.J. Brown, in an interview after the game, said that Sirianni actually made it worse. So Sirianni is getting exposed a little bit this season, kind of what I was laying out in the preseason. And we're really seeing that the OC and DC that left had big impact on the Eagles in the prior seasons. They are outperforming with their new teams, with the Colts and with the Cardinals. We just saw the Cardinals pull up a huge upset against Dallas. Good coaching. Jonathan Gannon, the head coach over there of the Cardinals, knows how to run a defense, knew how to attack the Dallas Cowboys, and they pulled off a huge upset against a team in the Dallas Cowboys that everybody thought was one of the best teams in the NFC. And then we see the Colts have been doing really well. Colts they've won 2 games, I think, already. So they are showing some success, and the former OC of the Eagles is over there as the head coach now. So a lot of problems with the coaching staff of the Eagles, and I give a lot of weight to coaching staffs when it comes to coming up with game plans. And it looks like Tampa Bay's new offensive coordinator, Canellis, is doing well over there too. He's been able to lead the Buccaneers to 2 big wins to start off the season, once against the Vikings, and then they won last week against the Bears. So, the Bears, we've seen what they are. They're not very impressive of a team, but he still pulled out the win. Nobody was expecting anything from the Buccaneers going into the season, and they have been a nice surprise so far. And, just to kind of build on that with Baker Mayfield, we've kind of seen what the Cleveland offense has done to Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson coming in rusty. People are blaming Deshaun Watson for losing his touch or not being a top 5 quarterback anymore. But is that really the case? Or is it just the offense that he's playing in with Kevin Stefanski's Nick Chubb-based offense that Baker Mayfield was playing in for all those years? So Mayfield ended up getting traded to the Panthers. Didn't really do too much there, another crappy offense. And then he ended up going to the Rams, had a huge surprise win on Monday Night Football, I believe, was the game. Pulled it out of his ass, basically, leading the Rams to a huge win. And now he finds himself on Tampa Bay with the best offense that he's ever probably been on, with a bunch of weapons, and he finally gets a chance to actually prove himself after getting made fun of for the past few years. So opposite kind of with Jalen Hurts and his side, they were rolling with a well-oiled coaching staff for a couple years, and now they find themselves with situations similar to what Josh Allen is without Brian Daboll. We are looking at the Eagles kind of look a little bit like they're self-imploding right now. They're still a really good team. They might be able to figure it out before it's too late. But based on what we saw in week 2, they seem to have some issues all around with the team not getting along, or AJ Brown being upset about not getting targets, all that kind of stuff. The typical kind of stuff that you see, when a team comes into a season with a bunch of pressure and then they're seeing some cracks in their armor. So we're going to take a look at this game and build a couple lineups based on how it might play out. And we'll do a lineup first before we get to a Tampa Bay wins lineup. We'll take a look at an Eagles lineup, which is still the most likely way that this game is going to go. We're looking at a total here in this game of 44.5, and Philadelphia are 4.5 point favorites on the road. This is my friend Spread loves to target these home dogs, and right now Tampa Bay is a 4.5 point dog in this game. They've been playing well. I think from a momentum standpoint, Tampa Bay has more momentum than the Eagles, even though the Eagles are also undefeated this season. They have struggled to win games. They almost lost to the Patriots. In week 1. It came down to one of the rookie receivers on the Patriots wasn't able to toe tap a ball at the sideline, and then it ended up turning over the ball to the Eagles on downs. But it looked like the Patriots were going to make a run and could have potentially won that game. They were only down 5 with about a minute left in the game. So then last week, when the Eagles were playing against Minnesota, we saw all the issues with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, and Hurts was able to get there from a quarterback scoring perspective with 2 of the tush push touchdowns that he ended up getting against Minnesota last week. So Jalen Hurts has kind of been underperforming a little bit this year without his offensive coordinator, and Baker Mayfield is exceeding expectations with his offensive coordinator and new just team in general. So let's see what we can do here. So I think one of the most popular ways to build lineups this week is, I think we're all kind of expecting AJ Brown to get the squeaky wheel treatment. Like after that argument, he's going to get greased up by Jalen Hurts this week, and we could see that come to fruition. I'm going to be having probably more AJ Brown than Devontae Smith this week, because Devontae Smith is also dealing with a hamstring injury, and we never like to see that. And it would make a lot of sense for them to target AJ Brown a little bit more this week as opposed to Devontae Smith. AJ Brown does have some stuff going against him. He doesn't get targeted often in zone defense, And the Buccaneers, I believe, have been running about 87% zone defense so far to begin the season. Jalen Hurts is, he's struggled against pressure and zone defense in the past, but this year he's doing well against the blitz, and he's doing well against zone defense. That could be just a small sample size, but we'll see how it kind of plays out. For the sake of this game, let's put AJ Brown in the captain, because I believe that AJ Brown is set up to potentially get his wheel greased. So Chris Godwin is my favorite player on the Bucs this week, and that's because Avonte Maddox is out, and we've seen it in the past with the Eagles' inability to adjust to Avonte Maddox being out. Last season, Avonte Maddox went out, and then the easiest way to attack the Eagles was with the slot receiver. And this year he is out again. He got hurt, and Chris Godwin is set up with a great matchup in that situation. And I believe that Godwin, he's honestly who I'm going to be probably having the most exposure to in captain. But for the sake of an Eagles build, I'm going to put Godwin as a flex position right now, and AJ Brown in the captain. This will also be, like AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, I'm guessing are going to be the top owned guys in the captain spot this week. We'll put Jalen Hurts in there as well. I think this game's going to go over the total. Both these teams are pass funnel defenses. The Bucs, I think, are number one or number two rushing defense this year, and the Eagles are the other one. Like, though they're both the top two run defenses this year. So I don't want to really put too much running backs in my lineups this week, unless you want to take that as your contrarian approach to building lineups. It's an easy pivot off of the passing game, which you could absolutely do. But for me, I'm going to be taking more of a approach where I have lower owned captains like Chris Godwin. I don't know if he's going to get steam throughout the day, but right now it looked like he was only a 7% projected captain ownership, which I love with Chris Godwin. So I'm going to add in Baker Mayfield to this lineup, because the past couple games against the Eagles, they have given up about 30 points per game to the quarterback position. They've been giving up quarterback points per game, DraftKings points per game, and I'm not going to go against that, especially when Baker Mayfield has been doing well this year, and he's been getting about 34 dropbacks a game. He's pass attempts a game. So we're looking at a potential, 40 plus pass attempts in this game, with Tampa Bay likely playing from behind, or at least in a competitive game. So I expect Mayfield to have a big game tonight. So doesn't leave us with a whole lot of salary left there. We got their main weapons. So let's take a look down here a little bit. This guy, Trey Palmer, has been getting a decent amount of snaps. I think he's like right underneath the main guys, maybe right underneath Otton. Like, Trey Palmer's been getting something like 36%. So he's the next guy as far as the pecking order of Tampa Bay's receivers. He's only $600. Looks like we're going to need salary relief in a build like this. So let's plug him in and see where that leaves us. That leaves us with about 6,300 left. So we could plug in Kenny Gainwell in that situation. I know I was just talking up how Tampa Bay is good against the run, but Kenny Gainwell sticks out like a sore thumb right there at 5,600 as an option. And we want an Eagles heavy build. So, we're building for, maybe Gainwell comes out and ends up having a good game versus a tough defense. Vita Vea is hurt as well. He's got a hurt pec, so he's the run stuffer with Tampa Bay. So it's potential that maybe he's a little bit more banged up, which would also lend to a potential Kenny Gainwell doing well tonight. Eagles D, that'd be another option. Eagles got an explosive D, and we have the potential of a Baker Mayfield meltdown. Maybe Baker Mayfield melts down finally for the first time this season if you're going with an Eagles build. Cade Otton, I like Cade Otton too. He's super cheap. He's at 4,200. I like Cade Otton in this matchup. Nakobe Dean is out for the Eagles, giving tight ends on the Tampa Bay side and the middle of the field in general good matchups, which the Eagles won't be able to adjust to likely. Jake Elliott, we have the option of either kicker for an Eagles build. I would put Jake Elliott in there just to get another Eagle in there, because we're looking at right now we got 3 Tampa Bay Bucs guys and 2 Eagles. So all sorts of options. The Bucs, maybe we'd save that for the Bucs build. McLaughlin, he's the other kicker on Tampa Bay who would be interesting. Chase Edmonds is out. Chase Edmonds is on injured reserve, which opens things up for Sean Tucker. He's the backup. He's a rookie quarterback, rookie running back, backup for the Bucs. Let's see how much work that he got last week. He got 8 attempts last week. Didn't do much with them. Week 1, he got 5 attempts for 15 yards and had a couple receptions too. Looks like it's pretty much been Rachaad White's backfield this year. He hasn't done too bad either. He had a big game against Chicago last week, scoring 21 fantasy points. He looks like he's getting most of the work. He got 17 attempts last week, and he had 5 targets. So he's heavily used in the passing game, which makes him interesting in this game with Nakobe Dean and Avonte Maddox being out. Like if they need to do these little dump offs to Rachaad White, that makes a lot of sense to plug him in. And I believe the Eagles are giving up maybe the most receptions to running backs this year. So that makes him interesting there as well. Let's see. Let me take a look and see what the Eagles have done against running backs this year. Let's see. Ramondre Stevenson got 6 targets in week 1. And Ezekiel Elliott got 7 targets. So 13 targets to those Patriots running backs in week 1. And then last week we saw the Minnesota Vikings. They targeted Alexander Mattison 6 times and Ty Chandler once. So 7 targets there. So keep that in mind. Rachaad White, he could be in line for targets, especially with a tight game or a trailing game script. And the Eagles giving up so many targets to running backs this season. So keep that in mind. So there's some good options there for a A.J. Brown build, expecting the Eagles maybe to roll in this one. Maybe A.J. Brown has a huge game. We got Hurts. We got Baker Mayfield in there. We got Godwin. Solid lineup. You got solid options. Maybe instead of Palmer, maybe you can mess around and find a cheaper guy that I'm not thinking of right now. As you watch your content, Olamide Zaccheaus, he is also a interesting guy. Quez Watkins is out tonight, so he is interesting. He's only $200, but he hasn't done anything yet. And the Eagles are such a condensed offense with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and now we saw DeAndre Swift explode last week. So it looks like it'll be tough to get targets spread around to Zaccheaus tonight. So he's only $200 though. He's an option. So if you don't want to put Palmer in there, if you want to go a different direction, that's another one. Don't really see any other cheap guys. Albert O. He's on Philly. He's somewhat interesting. I don't think he played. No, he didn't get any action yet. So he's been a healthy scratch. So yeah, that's about it for that end. Let's give a build now with that Baker Mayfield build. I can see this being a game where Philly just kind of implodes. This is a rematch of the Super Bowl, not the Super Bowl. This is a rematch of what was it, the NFC Championship a couple years ago, or maybe it was the first round of the playoffs. But Tampa Bay knocked Philadelphia out of the playoffs a couple years ago, and they just destroyed the Eagles. And Todd Bowles is now the head coach. I believe he was the defensive coordinator at the time, and he came up with a good defensive game plan to attack the Eagles. And I believe he's capable of doing that again. It looks like they're getting back some of their defensive players this week, which helps them out for sure. They had a lot of injuries. There was a pretty significant amount of injuries to deal with. Let's take a look at that real quick. They had Avante, that's the Eagles side. Carlton Davis is a game time decision. He's a stud cornerback for them. He's a game time decision, but he's been limited in practice all week. So it looks like he's going to go, but I still like that matchup better for A.J. Brown if Davis is playing with a injured toe in that one. Devin White is questionable with a groin injury. We never like to see groin injuries with these players. These soft tissue injuries are have been brutal this year. So with taking guys out. So I don't like seeing a groin injury on Devin White. That's going to be important for Dallas Goedert because he guards the tight ends. So Devontae Smith is also dealing with a hamstring injury. That kind of lends more toward that A.J. Brown angle that I've been talking up. Vita Vea is questionable. He was limited in practice this week. It looks like he'll play, but he's got a damaged pec, which is going to be rough with him trying to go up against Kelsey to get to the quarterback and stuff the run. For the Eagles side, Reed Blankenship, James Bradbury, and Kenny Gainwell look like they're all going to be playing this week. So Eagles get back their secondary, which is something that they were missing last week against Minnesota. So if we're doing this build, I like the matchup for Chris Godwin the best, and he's also cheap at 7,400. So let's plug him into the captain. I'm going to plug in Baker Mayfield because I'm still going with that storyline that Baker Mayfield is going to pull out, like a good game tonight versus the Eagles. At the very least, Mayfield should get a lot of opportunity tonight. I expect him to drop back at least 40 times in this game based on his 34 dropbacks a game in the previous two games. So expect that to happen. Jalen Hurts, we want those raw points. There's an argument to fade Hurts, based on how he's played so far this season. But he could easily, figure stuff out. We do have what we said, with the Bucs, being really good against the run, and that could translate to a running quarterback as well. Jalen Hurts week 1 only got 13.5 points, and last week, if he didn't get those 2 rushing touchdowns at the 1 yard line, he would have had like 12 points. So there are arguments to be made for fading Jalen Hurts in this one, but for now, let's leave him in. Let's see what happens if we put A.J. Brown in there. That gives us about 4,000 left per position. If we wanted to, maybe put in Goddard, that would leave us with 1,900 to work with. At that point, we're looking again at some of these scrubs in the sub 1,000 range. So, if you wanted to make a case for fading one of these quarterbacks, you can make the case for that. Both these teams are pass funnel teams. Maybe we fade Hurts. Maybe we say that. And I'm not saying fade him entirely. I'm saying for the sake of this lineup, if we got rid of Hurts and we got A.J. Brown, maybe he's forcing passes to Brown based on all the stuff from last week. And even though he's forcing against bad matchups, let's say Carlton is in, He's forcing the ball to Brown with a bad matchup, and trying to make Brown happy. Brown's getting the most of that matchup against Carlton, but maybe there's some times where he misses out, right? So what if we tried to put in the Bucs in that situation, the Bucs defense? Because I think the Bucs defense are going to need to have a big game in order for the Bucs to pull off this win. So that leaves us with 10,300 left in salary. That gives us the opportunity to plug in Mike Evans if we really like the Bucs in this matchup. And we got Baker Mayfield in the lineup. Maybe you want to put a second receiver on with him. And so we got the option of putting Mike Evans in there. We have the option of putting in Rachaad White in there. Now, these guys, we just got to try to think of which one of these other players could outscore Jalen Hurts or could outscore A.J. Brown if we wanted to take A.J. Brown out and put Jalen Hurts in there. Devontae Smith, maybe he could outscore Jalen Hurts. All sorts of these guys could potentially outscore Jalen Hurts based on how Hurts has played this year. And, taking him out gives us options. So try to think that through a little bit when you're building your lineups this week. Keep in mind, I think that the Eagles have shown some weaknesses this year. I think that losing those offensive coordinators is a huge deal. It's not enough is being made of it. And I just think in general that the Eagles are going to struggle at some point this year. We're already kind of seeing it with getting booed. They got booed in Philadelphia last week, I believe. And on top of that, you got A.J. Brown arguing with Jalen Hurts very, very visibly on the sidelines, and then saying that the coach did not help the situation afterwards. Nick Siriani is not the type of coach that seems like he can adapt to, this type of adversity. And then on top of that, like they got all that damage to the middle of the field right now. So the Tampa Bay Bucs are going to have an easy weakness to exploit tonight, and that's why I'm kind of giving a lean towards the Tampa Bay Bucs in this game, at least to cover the 4.5 point spread. And I think the game is going to go over, and that's the way that I'm going to be building tonight. So give us a like on the video if you liked this breakdown. If you want more of these breakdowns, give us a subscribe on the YouTube channel. Always appreciate the subscribes. We want to try to get those up so we can help get these videos some more views. I'm going to be putting out another Gamescript episode later on today. Cincinnati Bengals versus the Los Angeles Rams, Super Bowl rematch there, and looks like Joe Burrow is going to try to play in that one. Don't know exactly how that's going to play out just yet, but I'll do a breakdown of it and take a look out for the shorts that are going to be coming. I'll give a short 1-minute video on YouTube Shorts with my breakdown of my favorite plays from this game and from the Cincinnati game. So subscribe to YouTube, and I will see you later on today.